So, one of the things worth noting about having a 3-year-old daughter is that you're obliged to immediately purchase anything with Hello Kitty on it. Because she loves Hello Kitty, of course. Even though she couldn't say her name for the longest time and instead would just point at her face and say "Doody Doody" with a chorus of angels. It was in that state of being that I came across a Hello Kitty game on the Switch for $2, and I thought to myself, what's the harm in that? A cute little game for my daughter to play, and obviously I'm gonna try it out because I like some Sanrio characters myself, with my favorites being Cinnamoroll and My Melody. That is how Hello Kitty Happiness Parade entered my home. Sure, my daughter won't be able to play it for a few years, but I can enjoy it in the meantime if it's actually fun. Hello ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode in which we talk about Hello Kitty Happiness Parade, which, as it turns out, is actually a rhythm game that is also a roguelite. Yes, this Hello Kitty game features roguelite elements. Initially, I posited this idea as a joke, but as I played more, I only received more evidence to support the theory, which was not at all what I was expecting going into this. I was so baffled by this that I decided people need to know that somewhere out there's a Hello Kitty roguelite game and that it's pretty fun. I'm getting a little ahead of myself though, so let's backpedal some and talk about what's going on here. First, I want to talk about the way the game is structured, then we can work our way around into the components of the primary gameplay loop. You select your characters, you have a lead character, and then you have backup characters. The biggest thing you need to be aware of here is each character has their own special abilities. Some allow for changing enemies into friends, healing teammates, and other helpful asides. We'll talk more about each ability later. These abilities are actually super beneficial to understand and can pretty much make or break your gameplay. I spent a lot of time trying to get far without using said abilities, and it was pretty much impossible, so I recommend keeping track of what abilities your characters have and when it is best to use them. So, once you've picked out your favorite abilities, which, if you're just starting the game, is gonna be only a couple characters that you start with, you'll have to unlock everyone else. I believe you start with Doody Doody, Pom Pom Purin, and My Melody, who, all around, their abilities are actually pretty decent, with one of the best abilities in the entire game belonging to Pom Pom Purin, but there are a lot of great abilities to unlock with different characters. After that, you're brought to the map screen. Now, when you're about to start a level, you're offered 2 choices, with the upper route, I believe, being harder and the lower route generally being easier. In an interesting twist, the songs aren't tied to the levels, and before you select the level you want to play, which will be a specific environment, in fact, you have your pick of about 3 songs. Right here you can see 3 flames, which just denotes how fast the song is. The music selection is mostly stuff I've never heard about before, but all songs I've heard are pretty darn good and definitely fun. I love listening to Going to War just to see Hello Kitty kicking and partying down the lane. The juxtaposition that this game so consistently offers is pretty hilarious. Once you pick your song and stage, then you just jump in and the game starts. The way the main gameplay loop works is that you walk down a path to the rhythm of the song. Now, if you're just walking straight, you just press down on the left stick or the south button on your controller if you're on console, and pressing that moves you forward. The trick is, of course, that you only want to press forward in time with the music. So as these 2 bars below your feet swipe inward, you want to move as they reach each other in the middle, just below your lead character. I love how generous the game is with its grading. It's not miss or bad and good and great. It's way cuter and more encouraging than that. It goes offbeat, good, perfect, and perfect plus. It's over the top and kind of reminds me of the damage points from something like Tatsunoko vs. Capcom. So, you're cruising down your lane, that's chill, except that your lane is pervaded by obstacles. Little fences, robots, trash, spike boxes, hammers, holes, bananas, all kinds of things that are natural predators to the dancer, of course. To avoid them, instead of just pressing the south button on your controller or down on the stick, you press the east or west buttons, or left or right on the stick to move to the side. This still has to be done in rhythm, and moving to the side also moves you forward. Pressing a side button ultimately means you move diagonally instead of straight if you're in the middle. This all sounds good, but if you miss the beat hard enough to get an offbeat rating, your character kind of trips and it makes it really hard to recover if anything's around, because you kind of lose the ability to adjust their position for a beat. So you just have to make sure you're locked in on marching the whole time. That doesn't sound too hard, just keep walking and don't trip. Well, the layouts can actually get pretty challenging. That's where the next major mechanic comes in, the character abilities. Each different parade member actually has a different ability that can be leveraged to help weather the storm of squeaky hammers, banana peels, and spike boxes, each in their own unique way. Hello Kitty is able to befriend the evil robots and cause them to join in on the parade. My Melody is able to change coins on the track into small health pickups, which seems pretty good. So why is it then that earlier I said Pom Pom Purin is one of the best abilities? Well, when it comes to survivability, his is definitely the best. He just straight up gets an invincibility shield that lasts for a couple of seconds. If things get a little too hot on the track, well, just use Pom Pom Purin's shield and it doesn't matter. In fact, everything you hit with his shield gives you bonus points. To top it all off, Pom Pom Purin actually has the most health, making him pretty much a given as the lead on every team you're gonna make. His ability is just too good to leave on the table unless you're going for a self-imposed challenge run. So how do these abilities work? Well, each ability has a certain effective stat and a certain cooldown stat. I say effective because the game calls it range. That isn't totally accurate for every character. For example, Hello Kitty and Pom Pom Purin's range is a circle around them while they walk. This denotes how far their special ability will go once it's fired. But My Melody's a little different. When you use her special ability, it turns the coins into small hearts. You can actually totally swap her out and heal whoever you put in the lead. What she actually does is summon butterflies that fly over and change each coin, and the butterflies stay with whoever's in the lead after My Melody summons them. Meaning that anyone can take advantage of My Melody's ability, but it doesn't have a range per se. More like it affects a certain number of total coins. Hello Kitty's and Pom Pom Purin's genuinely do affect a range though. Each ability's cooldown is a certain number of tiles moved. So if the cooldown's 30, you have to go 30 paces before your ability comes back. Or alternatively, you could pick up an apple pie. The apple pie immediately fully restores the lead character's special ability and can be a lifesaver in certain dire straightaways. You have to be pretty careful when juggling characters though. Pressing the swap button, which on console is the L bumper, counts as moving on a beat. So you have to time the character swap with the normal beat of the song, which can get tricky. The other thing is, the swap just goes straight from what I know. I'm not sure you can swap and go diagonal at the same time, so you better have enough room to make the swap without taking damage. Now you have to manage the health and special ability bars of all three party members, as well as stay in time with the music. By the way, using your special ability also counts as moving, so that has to be activated on beat as well. That's all well and good and cute and all, but those mechanics don't become necessarily a roguelike. Well, when a character loses all their health in the game, they're done. If you survive the rest of the level and manage to get back to a character select screen, well, your character's gonna be dejected and won't even face the camera. And you wanna know the crazy part? That's it. There's no way to get them back, or heal them, or get an extra life form. You just have to hope that you don't fail My Melody yet again, because her health pool is so low and her ability is so useful, even yet, you can't seem to wire your brain around the idea that switching characters counts as a movement, and using your ability counts as a movement too. So, you keep making the poor bunny rabbit trip and eat dirt before getting TKO'd and crying in the corner. When you lose a character in a given run, they're out. You have to soldier on without them. Pick your next stage and do your best to accrue more overall happiness because you just know it's what they would have wanted if they were still here. No, really though. The namesake of the game is the scoring system. You collect happiness and after a level, it's added to a total happiness meter. What happens if you lose all your characters, you ask? That's it, run dead. You failed to defeat Kronos, and now you're back at square one again, picking your team and trying all over, and taking it from the top. When I saw this was a component of a Hello Kitty game, I was shocked. That's kind of a lot of faith to have in a little kid. This game is very respectful of its audience that way. By the way, the game can get very hard. I genuinely struggled in some segments, and I felt like hopping in for another run after losing so many times. It's a well-designed little game that actually has some challenge to it, assuming you're playing on the mode that the menu defaults to, which is the play mode I've been describing so far. If you're nervous about how hard it sounds, you can pick auto dance instead, and then you only have to move side to side, swap characters, and use special abilities. As far as I could tell, nothing you can do can be offbeat in this mode, so it's a good way to start little kids. This is clearly not what the game was designed around though. It's just a little extra feature that makes the game more accessible for people who are struggling to keep up with everything, which can be a lot. Which, speaking of, the only video settings the game offers are something called sensory load, which becomes really self-evident as to what exactly that means when you look at the parameters of it, which are full and safe. This game can get really over the top on the visuals, to the point where it starts to destroy the Switch's video codec that you can use by pressing the capture button. It can almost evolve into complete pixelated trash sometimes. Obviously the game doesn't look like that outside of videos, but that's neither here nor there. It's wild. Full, by the way, is on by default. The developers at Dabadu Games know it isn't quote-unquote safe, but it's what they start you off with anyway. By the way, the confetti is actually a mechanic. The more confetti you're seeing, the more points you are accruing in your happiness score, which is actually a whole separate mechanic that I've only hinted at so far. If it wasn't complicated enough to make sure every single action you took was on beat, and to keep up with everything in the track at all times, if you want to maximize your score in a given level, you have to pay attention to the colors of the shirts that the people alongside the track are wearing, so you can then proceed to swap to the character that best matches their shirt colors. And you have to keep up with that during regular gameplay. It's not always immediately obvious who they want either, so when you're dodging hammers and bananas trying to destroy your run, you have to be mindful of the colors of these guys' shirts and switch to their favorite character. When learning the game, everything felt pretty manageable, but this mechanic here is the one that I mentally have to shelve unless nothing is going on during certain stretches of the track, because not only is a lot to keep up with, but I'm colorblind, and for certain colors, I have to really look and see what's going on. I also totally forgot about this mechanic until I was reading over the script again after unlocking Kuromi. There are certain areas where fans will demand a photo shoot of their favorite character, so you have to quickly swap them into the lead. Then you start a minigame where you have to time your inputs to these circles closing in. You want to hit it as close to the middle of the range as possible, with the max amount of points for a single hit being 250. This can really help boost your score, so I don't recommend skipping them. Once you finish a level, depending on how well you did, you have bonus time. During the bonus time, you have to mash a specific button to pump up your happiness at the end of a given level. So, what purpose does happiness serve beyond altruism, right? Well, if you happen to go to a stage a character is occupying on the map, to unlock them, you have to reach a certain happiness threshold, and if you fail to meet that threshold, you just move on without unlocking the character. Meaning you'll have to come back here on another run to take a stab at it again. Unless of course they're a character with multiple locks on them, then each time you achieve the specific happiness rating, you unlock them. By one lock. In which case, you would have to return to that stage for another 1 or 2 successful runs anyway. Taking the time to unlock certain characters can definitely be worth it though. If you unlock Lala, she will make it easier to unlock other characters via her special ability, which causes more confetti multiplier objects to spawn on stage, and thus gives you more happiness points, meaning that you are less likely to come up short when your points are tallied at the end of a level. Alright, let's go through all the other character abilities real quick. Bad Bats Maru turns spike blocks into presents that also contain confetti bag multipliers. Choco Cat paralyzes enemies so he can punt them into the sun, serving a similar but less ethical purpose to Hello Kitty. Tuxedo Sam is another guy you're generally going to want on your team because his ability, once used, makes it to where whoever you then swap into the lead has a shorter cooldown for their own ability. He pairs great with Pom Pom Purin for tanking certain challenges, which we'll talk about later. Cinnamoroll's heal works similarly to Sam's, where you activate his ability and then swap someone to the lead, because then it steadily heals the party leader. Pochaco's ability makes items magnetized to him, which can be pretty useful, especially if his health is low and you can use My Melody's ability first. You can then combo those together for some faster healing. Kuromi multiplies the coins in an area, which can also pair well with My Melody, which actually makes sense because she's My Melody's doppelganger. Their abilities complement each other. You can also combo Kuromi with Pochaco to collect more coins. Kuropi throws a boomerang in front of him that breaks things, which is a cool ability and all, but I think Pom Pom Purin's ability might just be better. Then you have Kiki, the other twin star. He causes more character cards to appear. Oh, speaking of character cards, remember I said the game was a roguelite? Well, it's not just a roguelite because you can unlock more characters. As you play and collect these cards, you can upgrade the individual characters, increasing their range and reducing their cooldown time. To level them up, you just have to collect a certain amount of coins for the given requirement, as well as the right number of cards. Once you have enough of both, you can level them up. Oh yeah, I mentioned the coins a few times now. They can be used for character level ups, like I just mentioned, and cosmetics for each character. The other way you can get cards and cosmetics is the challenges the game offers. Some examples would be beat a song without changing lanes, which with the levels I had for my characters was a fun challenge. I had to very strategically use Pom Pom Purin's ability alongside My Melody's and Tuxedo Sam's to survive, and it took a good handful of tries to pull off. Other challenges include things like unlock a single lock character, unlock a 2-lock character, befriend 5 minions in a single level, and score a certain amount of points in auto dance mode. Just things that encourage experimentation when playing. Let me level with you. I've seen some reviews for this game, and they had some pretty negative things to say about it. To be honest with you, I only have a small handful of complaints. First, when you go out of photo mode, it can be really hard to get back into rhythm. There's a countdown to try and give you time to sync up with it, but if you start pressing the button to start trying to get the rhythm down, it automatically removes your buffer, so you just have to be on your toes, or you'll get some obligatory missed beats thrown into your score. Second, it can be kind of tough to get back on beat because the character's responsiveness gets wonky if you ever miss a beat, and then you're likely to miss more and more likely to just hit things. It feels overly punishing. Thirdly, the game features 5 endings, but not all endings are made equal. The first ending I got, I thought was super cute, and I was excited to see more. But the second and third endings I got, I felt were not on par, which feels like a very weird thing to say about a Hello Kitty game, that some of the alternate endings offered are not as well made as others. I did not realize that there would be a FNAF parallel in this video going in. It's more like more effort was put into some rather than others. Fourth, once you unlock a certain amount of characters, you actually switch to a parade of 4 people instead of 3, which is cool now because you have more opportunities for more abilities, combos, and more characters, and means you're more likely to survive, but you don't have the ability to go back to just having 3 anymore. At least, not that I found, which is a little disappointing. I would like the choice to do challenge runs with anywhere between 1 and 4 characters, so it's a bummer that it isn't supported. That is one of the only mechanical parts of the whole design that remind me this game was made for children. Overall, it is a challenging but very fun Hello Kitty roguelite that I'm just astonished exists. I kind of adore how much respect the game has for its audience, who will definitely be children. It's so cool! I want to applaud the devs of this game, Dabadu, and shout out to the publisher Rogue Games. If you like Hello Kitty, rhythm games, and or adorable roguelites, give it a try. It's a surprisingly fantastic, but unsurprisingly adorable little game that I plan to keep playing around the production of this video. It's not so intense, but it is super fun. There are many great opportunities for character special ability combos in the game. They've actually created some depth for this, beyond the bare minimum idea of just make it cute. They actually took the time to make a game. And this kind of makes me excited for Hello Kitty games in the future. We already have a physical copy of Hello Kitty Island Adventure waiting for me to try out, and of course I'm excited by the prospect of Hello Kitty getting a Mario Party clone with Hello Kitty Party Land. I've also been collecting various Hello Kitty games for my daughter, so I might talk about those someday, if anyone is interested in hearing my thoughts on any of them. Anyways, Jesus loves you, and so do I. Tune in next time, and goodbye.